Hello everyone! Today we are going to do a review at last, and in this case it's about a Spanish author I love, who is Victoria Álvarez. In this case, this book, as far as I know, is only published in Spanish, and it will be probably a pick for someone who has a really high level of Spanish, but we will discuss this in the review. This is one of my favorite books, and this is one of her most famous ones. So let's go and talk about it, right? This is Tu nombre después de la lluvia, or in English would be Your Name After the Storm, or After the Rain, if we want to be more precise. See you in a bit. This story over here is about a group of friends called, well, the main character here is called Lionel Lennox, kind of cheeky young man who actually lives in Oxford, and he participates in a magazine called Dreaming Spires, which is centered around the occult and the paranormal activities. We are in the beginning of the 19th century, which was very this kind of stuff about ghosts and things like that was very important and very how would I describe it? It's it was very chic back then. It was very attracting to people. So Lionel Lennox and his colleagues, the Professor Alexander Quills, and Lionel's best friend Oliver Saunders, they are part of this kind of magazine. And when the magazine is not doing well, they receive a letter from a lady in Ireland who states that in her little town they have a banshee that belongs to one of the most powerful nobiliary kind of families that live there, but they have discovered that the banshee, that this kind of woman spirit, doesn't kill or doesn't announce the death of a member of the family, of this important family. However, what she has done is actually announced the death of a person in the village. So that goes a little bit against the kind of non-written laws of how banshee normally work. So the people in the town are a little bit scared about how this banshee is now free and roaming the streets, and they want solutions. And they know they actually dealt, or these people, these three journalists dealt with ghosts in the past, so they want to know if there's a way of freeing the land from the banshee. So they go to this tiny little village in Dublin. Well, not Dublin, in Ireland, because it's not set in Dublin. And they discover that maybe there's more to this town than the proper banshee that they come to actually try to talk to. And I adore this story. This is a slow-paced, kind of paranormal, a little bit of horror at some points, a story in which the author does a brilliant job in telling this kind of scary, spooky story, using the characters as a way of telling the story. You are living the story with them, you are discovering the things with them. You have to do the research with the characters, and that's how you meet, or you know that Lionel is a little bit of a, kind of charming, cheeky character, that Oliver is a romantic character, and that Alexander Quills is just the both voice of the reason between the two. I love that this is the beginning of a trilogy, so in this story you are able to, while you are solving the mystery of the banshee, you are able to meet the characters who are so fleshed out that they seem to be right in front of you, reading to you, or making jokes among you, as you were one of the gang, one of the members of the team. I also love how different it's... you have the main plot, which is the Banshee mystery and why it's attacking the people in town. But then you have the village itself, whose inhabitants have kind of, you know, the little quarrels between people that live in the village, the kind of envies and the story, their own past that is sometimes intertwined with this kind of Banshee mystery going on. I love that because not only the main characters are fleshed out, but when you step into Kilcurling, which is the name, I think, of the town, you actually feel that kind of village, kind of provincial entity of the proper town. You get to know some of the secondary characters who actually play a really important part in the story, and you get to understand why these villagers are so scared of their neighbors. And it's important because with this kind of flesh out community, you get the chance to be completely immersed in it. And that's partly because the historical elements and the how would I say it, the documentary and the research put in this story, written in a way is not an essay, but a way of allowing you to experience the surrounding, the community, and also the time period it's set in, because we are in the 19th century. The research kind of craziness is delivered here in a way you want to just jump into the pages, as if you were going to be able to find a wardrobe that takes you here. That's what I was needing in that time. I love how the pace is slow at the beginning, so you are able to understand and to start in a new place with a new character, so you are able to connect with them. However, the kind of scary bits are the ones that keep you in track. So you are looking for clues, you're trying to understand why you hear a whining noise, and what does that mean. We are going to have another death coming soon. Who is going to die? That kind of intrigue there is what keeps you going. Another element I adored was actually the folklore and Celtic myths that were used here. Not only the Banshee, but when they have to do research, they encounter fantastical and mythological elements and creatures in the research related to this kind of Celtic culture, and I adore that. Basically, now I want to read more about other kind of stories that use Celtic folklore and myths as a part, as an element in the story. And now, having said that, I'm in love with how the characters and the surroundings and the kind of mythological aspect of the book was created. Now we are going to talk about the language. As I said before, this book is only published in Spanish at the moment, and I think it has to be for someone with a really high level of Spanish. Why I said this? Set in a different historical period of time, and based on a lot of research and documentation towards said time period. There's a lot of descriptions around the village and around the castle that is the story set in, and around the costumes and the clothing and the proper tradition of the place. So it's very methodological in the sense of being very, very precise with the vocabulary, with the image that vocabulary wants to portray. All the words and all the descriptions are exactly as they should be, and that's why maybe you need to have a higher level of Spanish than the normal ones that I normally talk about, because if you want to describe a castle, and I'm not an expert in architecture by any means, you need to use the proper vocabulary. Or if you want to describe the geography area, how the place is so wild and so kind of free, and you need to start a huge storm and to make that kind of eerie, scary atmosphere around a cliff, for example. You need to be very precise. And I know regarding the architecture, I wasn't very acquainted with the vocabulary, so I had to look for photographs and terminology and try to understand which element of the building we were referring to. But it's important to paint a vivid story such as this one. So yeah, if you want to read it, you will probably need a really high level of Spanish, just in case, so you are able to follow and to capture every detail about the story. But if you have that level, if you have high level of English and you consider this is something you would like to try, this is a very important book. It's very cute, and now I understand why the fans of Victoria Álvarez love her so much. I already did love her, but because I read another book that was actually is YA, so it's a little slightly more easier. It's easier than the rest of the books. But I discovered with that book in particular, with La Ciudad de las Sombras, that I also did a review of, and she mentions characters that appear in here. So thinking in terms of chronological order, this happens before La Ciudad de las Sombras. This happens before the first book I read of hers. And here we face some characters that in the first book I read of hers, that I leave the review down below. You already know them, but in a more mature aspect of their lives. So this is kind of the kind of teenagers and young adults years, and that's really funny, because you are able to understand a lot of the references from the other book that I read, and also you understand better why people make certain jokes or certain comments on the characters' personalities. I'm thinking about one in particular, but I cannot say because I don't want to do a spoiler. But yeah, it's really nice. It's like seeing old photographs of you when you were a teenager, or when you were younger than you are when you are 30 or 35. And it was quite nice to do that. So yeah, if you want to have a really nice time with some spooky Celtic based story, historical setting as well, this is going to be your thing. See you next week with another review, okay? Bye!